Hi everyone, Jason Hoke here, Chief Content Officer at HowStuffWorks. I'm here today with Chris Saad, head of the developer platform for Uber, and Jeremiah O. Yang, who is the founder and CEO of Crowd Companies. So let's get this out of the way first. Jeremiah, tell me exactly what is the collaborative economy and what are the different versions of that?
Oh, when it comes to lexicon and terms, there's so many. There's on-demand economy, there's sharing economy, there's peer economy, there's freelancer economy. There's so many. So just make it easy, I use the term collaborative economy, which is kind of a catch-all for all of these different models because people tend to be collaborating with each other.
At Uber, we kind of think of these things as on-demand, and the way I tend to think about it is it doesn't necessarily matter where the supply is coming from. Is it coming from peers? Is it coming from collaboration? Is it coming from sharing? Is it coming from contractors in the case of Uber? But I think for me, the thing that matters the most is that it's instant gratification, it's on demand. You press a button and a car or a TaskRabbit or something shows up and fulfills your very tactical or need, essentially.
Well, certainly Uber is the category leader in when it comes to on-demand rides, but then we also know about Airbnb, which is about home sharing, and you might have heard of crowdfunding with Kickstarter or peer-to-peer lending with Lending Club. Those are the most popular categories that we all know, but there's many others. In the health space, there's Cohilo, where hospitals are sharing things with each other. In the wellness space, Pop Expert allows people to share tips and tricks on how to cook or how to do yoga together. And also even in the energy space, there's some Dutch startups that allow you to share energy credits with each other home to home. So basically, Jason, we're seeing that these collaborative or on-demand or peer models are in every area of society. It's growing. It's really a movement.
I also like to think about it in this way, which is a lot of the things that were products are now becoming services. And so, the way I like to talk about it is cars were a product and now they're a service as it relates to Uber. And so I think how big is the economy? I think that's how big it can potentially get.
So this is really powerful. It means that people don't need to worry about the cars or parking or car ownership or maintenance. In urban areas, we're finding that people are giving up their cars because these services make it so easy to have mobility services. This has significant impacts to the economy. In our research, we asked over 50,000 consumers of this space. We just call them people because in some cases, they're not even consuming things now. They're just borrowing them on demand, right? So they're really not even consumers.
Or sharing them as well.
Or they're sharing them, right? So there is a significant behavioral change in what they're doing. But essentially, we asked them, why do you use these services? And the number one reason is convenience. Number two is always ranked, and this is from other studies beyond ours, is value. It's less expensive. Further on down the line, we see things like connecting to other humans, which big brands are not usually great at doing. And then also for sustainability reasons as well. Reusing resources in your own local neighborhood, which by the way makes it faster and therefore on demand. So these are some reasons why people use this. And what we found is that in all areas of society, whether it's urban or rural, low income, high income, that everybody's using these services, but in different ways. So in urban areas, you find more adoption of on-demand services, but we found that in rural areas that people are sharing their time more online using sites like Freelancer or Upwork because they have more remote areas that they have to cover. So it really depends on where. But one interesting finding in the earlier study we did is that people that make over 100K were more likely to use these services than those that do not. And we also found that there's a slight increase of males that use these services more than females, and that might be due to perceived and real privacy or safety issues.
I like these work platforms that you talked about, and in a sense, a lot of these things are really about work, distributed work or on-demand work. Also, Uber is about this kind of on-demand. It's not just about on-demand cars, but on-demand work. Like, how do I have the flexibility to work when I want, not work when I want? And in a sense, it's democratizing effort and work. And in these rural areas where they might not have had access to these jobs, it's a whole new supply class or a whole new class of work. It's very exciting. I remember way back in the day, Amazon Mechanical Turk was like the most exciting thing that I had ever heard of. All of a sudden, people can now get access to micro chunks of work. And this is, I think, just continued more and more and now become mobile thanks to iPhone and Android and so on.
Let's talk about your role at Uber, Chris, working with developers.
Yeah.
Give me a little bit of background on that.
Yeah, so essentially, if you ever use Uber to request a ride, but not from the Uber app, then you're using the developer platform. And so a good example of that is Facebook Messenger, the Hilton app, or OpenTable, or even a bunch of these thousands of small sites or small apps built by entrepreneurs, kind of everyday entrepreneurs in Silicon Valley or Israel or all around the world. And so the developer platform allows for that deep integration into third-party apps to make it easier to get Uber when you really want it, which is maybe when you're chatting with friends about going to dinner, or maybe when you're thinking about going to a Hilton hotel, and so you can just like request a ride right there. And the ride is pre-configured for you, where you are, where you're going, the kind of Uber product you want, and it just shows up for you. My favorite one is the Amazon Alexa, where you just go, hey Alexa, get me a ride. And it goes, there's an Uber X 5 minutes away from you, do you want me to get that for you? And you say yes, and it goes, okay, it's on its way. And it's just like, whenever people see that, their eyes light up.
So you lived this dream before, where there's a certain degree of openness at the beginning from various social platforms that will go unnamed, and then as they get to a certain size or certain age, it becomes very proprietary, right? How do you look at that within Uber?
So I think the idea that Uber would build it all is that's not going to play out, I think. I think, we're not going to build our own Amazon Echo or our own Hilton chain. There are things in the world that are deeply integrated into people's lives that are, what we would call in the software industry best of breed. And there are very exciting use cases out there that Uber is not going to solve for. The argument there might be, why doesn't Uber just create these exclusive partnerships or these very white glove handheld partnerships? And that's an argument. I think the way we think about that is, and certainly the way I think about it is, let 1,000 flowers bloom and see where the innovation comes from, and see where things that we wouldn't have thought of before, some of large companies have a vested interest in the status quo. And so what kind of innovation can we unlock? What kind of new disruption can we unlock on top of Uber's already very exciting innovation? The other thing that's different about Uber versus a lot of these social platforms that came out is that our business model is different. Our business model is actually transactional, not ad-based. And so our incentives are better aligned with the developer, because in a sense, it doesn't matter if the Uber request came from an Amazon Echo or from the Hilton app or from the Uber app, because it's still a transaction on our platform.
We've talked a lot of different and great examples. What's your favorite thing going on right now in this collaborative economy?
When I was first interviewing at Uber and thinking about working at Uber, every Silicon Valley says, oh, we're changing the world. And I'm like, yeah, I want to change the world too, that's fine. But only when I've really got into the company, and I'm embarrassed to say that the full scope of that change really set in terms of land values are changing, and parking structures are potentially being replaced with, parkland, and, potentially with Uber Pool, greenhouse gases are being reduced. And
DUIs are going down.
Exactly, yeah, drunk driving and DUIs going down. So in a very material way, in a profound way, and in a very broad way, the world is actually changing thanks to Uber and some of these other services.
I think that these services are going to help many of those that are retiring. So we're seeing a lot of on-demand doctors and first responders and people even providing peer-to-peer healthcare support to each other. Around 40% of the United States is a baby boomer, and so they're going to need these services, and the federal services and hospitals are going to struggle to deal with this largest generation we've ever had with healthcare services. So they're going to turn to each other, they're going to turn to apps, they're going to find idle resources and able to solve their healthcare woes. So that's the thing that I think is really important to us. And the second thing is this. These startups like Uber and Airbnb, they're actually influencing, if not scaring, these big companies who I tend to work with, that they have to change their business model, be more efficient and faster, and use localized resources. So it's actually changing Wall Street economics as well. And so those are the two main reasons.
Fascinating conversation, guys. Thank you so much. I hope you're having a great week here in Austin at South by Southwest. For more from HowStuffWorks here at Austin, Texas, South by Southwest, join us every day at now.howstuffworks.com.